Welcome to the Be Your Soul podcast. I'm your host, Sky Bradshaw. This podcast is presented in 3 segments to support the energy of your authentic self. Each segment works with today's topic of focus towards progress to build into a message that we hope is exactly what you need to hear today. In the Skylight segment of today's show, we will have co-founder of ESTAS Beauty, Vice President of Marketing and Sales for Thompson Traders, and all-around amazing human, Alejandra Thompson de Jordan, as our guest. Before we dive into the Unclouded Heart segment for spirit messages of wisdom, let's invite ourselves to become present in this moment within our body, mind, and energy. Take a moment to invite yourself to take some deep, cleansing breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth. And in through your nose and out through your mouth. And as you breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth, we allow our body to relax, 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 relax. Relax, 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 relax. Relax, 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 relax. And as we move into this space of complete relaxation, we open up our energies to the ancestors, loved ones, and friends to come together today to heal and guide us and lift us to the highest version of ourselves in the light of the universe. So we may hear what we need to hear, know what we need to know, connect how we need to connect, and be what we need to be for our highest and best good and the highest and best good of all involved as we tune in to give and receive. Focus towards progress. When I think of the idea of focusing towards progress, to me, it is the human part of being able to manifest. There's a Haitian saying that says, "Spirit says, meet me halfway, and I will see you there." And focusing towards your progress is your part when it comes to co-creating with the universe. As you may have heard me say before, if you don't know where you are, it's hard to map where you're going. To me, focusing towards progress is that map. It allows you to look out into what you are trying to accomplish in life and self. Once you have that horizon view of the destination, then you can move back into present moment step by step, seeing what you need to get you there. This allows for inertia and momentum to build. It also can soften the idea of overwhelm because you're taking things in a piece-by-piece view. The other aspect of that is the reason why I call it focus towards progress is because we also have to be willing to adapt and change as the road in front of us may adapt and change. So keeping our eye and our energy focused on what we're trying to accomplish doesn't box us in and hold us hostage to that plan. It gives us a way to co-create with the universe that is fluid and tangible at the same time. It also allows us to dream bravely as we take those steps. When we know we can do one part of the plan to our fullest ability, when we put those parts together, the foundation is sturdy and the growth is natural. This is a great gift we can give ourselves, whether we are focusing on a business horizon, a personal self-growth horizon, or even the horizon of happiness and health. The other aspect of this, focus is not control. And we can trick ourselves into believing that worrying is planning or that control is the best method to focus. But these things are our ego, not trusting ourselves and the universe. We all know that trust is built, whether that trust is with ourselves, with others, or with our path plan and our ability to manifest it. How trust is built is through attention, listening, dedication, openness to understanding, adaptability, and empathy. So when we are focusing towards progress, these are the ingredients that support ourselves staying in our healthy center while still taking one step in front of the other. So as you are mapping out your path plans, you can bring awareness if you are doing so from a base of trust and faith, or if you feel like ego control has taken over. As we said in episode 14, change happens, but growth is optional. And focusing towards progress is also focusing towards growth.
Production of the Be Your Soul podcast is made possible in part by Tarot by Sky, because it's your future. Tarot by Sky offers intuitive tarot and energy healing sessions, as well as life coaching, classes, spiritual guidance, and more. Offering sessions via Zoom, email, phone, or in the office in Greensboro, North Carolina, Sky is ready to help you turn change into growth. Book your session today on the web at tarotbysky.com and find her on Facebook and Instagram at Tarot by Sky. Stay tuned for a conversation about today's topic, Focus Towards Progress, with our guest Alejandra Thompson de Jordan.
Today we welcome Alejandra Thompson de Jordan. She is such an amazing person. It will be really hard to embrace all that she is and does in one short bio. But some of her hats include co-founder of ESTAS Beauty, the first line of luxury skincare created specifically for scars, vice president of marketing and sales for her family's legacy, the Thompson brand, board member of Green Hill Center for North Carolina Art, and Alejandra has type 1 diabetes and is passionate supporting the Juvenile Diabetes Foundation in their mission to find a cure. Plus, she's an amazing mom, friend, community member, and all-around great human on the planet. She has such a sweet place in my heart. So welcome. Thank you for being here.
Those are very nice things. Thank you so much, Sky. That's a very, very lovely welcome. Thank you. And thank you for having me. I'm really honored to be on your podcast. Thank you so much.
I'm honored to have you. You know, one of the things that I think about is, like watching and being part of, and connecting with you and just seeing how your life, has just continued to expand and how beautiful it is and how you make heart-centered choices. It is always all striking to me and really, really just powerful to be in the circumference of. So I really am. I'm glad.
It's really good to hear that. I was thinking about this talk and you saying leading through love and not fear and heart-centered choices. And I was like, gosh, I don't know if I do that too often. And so it's like, I'm trying to do a lot, but so I'm really grateful to hear that, at least from your perspective, that I really, really value your opinion, that it feels like that might be the case, because that's great. That's what I would want.
And one of the things that always happens, we're usually, a lot of times we're our own worst critic, or, we're the one who sees the HOLEs, the holes, not the WHOLE, when we're looking at ourselves. And it's always great to see how other people see us and to feel that energy. I am not one to give false compliments. And so, if that's the way I see it, it's the way I believe it. It's the way that I feel it. So you deserve everything that I said.
Thank you. Thank you. And right back at you tenfold.
Oh,
yes.
So we're here to talk about focusing towards progress and kind of how that comes forward in a way to be able to help people look at that in a, non-pressure, like you were saying, in a love-based way, in a non-control, non-critical sort of way, to say, what does that feel like? So in your life, what does that mean? What does that look like when you try and stay in that space of focus on the progress in a love-based way, not a control-based way?
Yeah, I'm trying not to laugh as you're saying that. I think I'm maybe a little bit of a control freak. So I'm this is an interesting question to ask me. But, when I first, you sent me these questions last night and I first thought about it, and I could only think about this, and focusing towards progress. I just kept going back to business and accomplishment and setting goals and achieving your goals. And I know that when I talk to you, it's so much more than one facet of our lives. Exactly what you were saying, the whole human, your whole experience, your whole being. And so I was kind of pushing myself, how do I focus towards progress in my personal life, in my relationships with my family, with friends, with anything outside of work that's measurable and transactional. And unfortunately, I have to say that I think it's kind of a similar approach. And what I mean by that is I really like to be able to measure progress and feel it and see it and be able to say, this thing didn't work. And then I tried this thing and it did work. Or even if it's baby steps, we're making baby steps towards progress. And so for me, that's really important. And I'm, outside of business, like in business, I'm very analytical and structured, and I set timelines and goals, and I like to break big projects down into little actionable pieces. And what I've kind of learned in my life so far is that in my personal life, end up taking a similar approach, even if it's not on purpose.
Right.
And so, like with my health, an example is like with diabetes, I was, maybe like a subpar diabetic. Maybe I got an F a couple of years in diabetes. It's like I probably averaged a D for a solid decade. And then I decided that I wanted to have children. And to get healthy enough to have kids was literally 3 years of like really just all consuming hard work. And I lean into work. I think it's because I'm an ox in the Chinese zodiac, but I'm like, I like work. I like lean into it, right? I don't know why. Everything to me is like a work process. But it was like 3 years of work. And I look back on it now and I'm like, oh, the first 6 months were focused on this and it was very hard. But once I got that under wraps, I could do it without thinking about it so much. It was like a step, it was one step on the ladder towards being healthy enough for my doctor to say, okay, you can try to have babies now. And so I end up, I think, doing something similar. And I like to see progress. I like to measure. I like to see results. To just do something and hope that it's going to turn out okay just doesn't feel good in my heart.
Well, and I think like part of that, little by little, the bird builds its nest, is the Haitian saying. And so like, we may see the concept of the nest and know that we want that in the end, but it is each twig by twig that puts it together. And I think that, that's one of the things I admire about you is like, you do see the sum and then you can see the small, pieces and put them into those places. And then, are dedicated and adaptable because, like that's the other key to it is like, if we're, control to me is non-adaptability. And so, I feel like, when we're adaptable, when we say like, yeah, here's what I want, but also here's the different way that I might need to get there, the things I have to do to put it into place, like that's really progress, is understanding adaptability is part of it. If the path changes, we change with the path, instead of trying to force the path back onto, our goal, whatever way. So I think that that's also what you're describing in a really beautiful way.
Yeah, I think about control a lot. It might have been you who once told me, this was like more than a decade ago, that one of the things that I had to learn in this lifetime was, I think it was that, like the lack of control that we have. And, I go back to the diabetes because it's been the best teacher for me.
Oh, yeah.
And, I like very much believe that luck favors the prepared, right? Like the luckiest people are the people who are the most prepared, right? So I definitely believe that. But I think, having diabetes has made me realize, at least in my physical body, not in everything, how many things I have no control over, right? Or less, not no, but less control, let's call it less, even though I think in my heart, I'm a control freak. But it's been a great lesson. And so what I know is like, I'm prepared for as much as I can. I try to prepare for the unpredictable. And I think that's how I kind of balance my desire to be in control with my knowledge that there is no control.
Yeah, it's the adaptability. And one of the things, like to me, it goes into that idea of like true positivity versus false positivity. False positivity is like nothing ever happens. The world is wonderful. I'm never going to have a bad time. Like that's not reality. We live on a planet with a billion other humans. Like things are going to happen. But the true positivity is realizing that like, whether it's something, positive or negative, I like it or I don't like it, I have the skill set, I have the tools, I have the ability to take it where
Mm-hmm.
I need it to go. And that's, in that sort of like viewing things in a way that says,
Yeah.
I'm not going to control this because I know something's going to happen because I'm not in a bubble and by myself on the
Right.
planet. But I also have that faith and trust that through that adaptability, through my own skill set, through, faith within myself and the universe, I can do whatever it takes to get to this point. That I think is a really important part of it.
Yes, 100%. The being like willing and trusting yourself and being willing to try to figure it out when it goes not as
Mhm.
you planned, or when a bomb gets set in whatever your plans were, which
Right.
happens pretty often. So
Yeah. And, we don't know that. I always like to tell people, like, my papa once said, we don't know better than God. We don't know better than the universe. Like, that greater sum energy has way more knowledge and access and understanding than we do. And so part of that trust and faith is in that, like, well, this happened. It wasn't in my plan. And instead of controlling and forcing it forward, we say, like, well, hold on. And, I think a great example of that in your life was coming back to North Carolina. Like, that was a faith and trust motion that you decided, like, this is what is best for me in the world. And I'm doing it. And, like, that sort of thing is certainly a love, heart-centered, approach to things, I think.
yes, and I'm trying to not be a butt person.
No.
Because I was thinking about this a lot last night. Because again, like wanting to be in control and I feel like I am the master of my universe, and I get to choose what happens to me in life and what life I live. And what I've thought about a lot is I think, some of the decisions or some of the changes or some of the risks or whatever were almost forced upon me from the universe, not in like a painful way, not in like a, dictator way, but like, so when I wanted to have kids and I needed to get healthier, I went to so many doctors and I would leave like sobbing and literally thinking like, this is going to be impossible. But I also just felt like I didn't have another choice, like I didn't feel like, oh, it's going to be 5 hard years and it's going to be great. I was kind of like, I guess I'm just going to try to do this impossible thing. And like, you know, it probably won't work, but we'll try, because what other choice do I have? I read somewhere, and again, in relation to diabetes, that like you discover how strong you are when you don't have another choice.
Right.
And so for me, a lot of this stuff is like, sure, I chose it, but I wasn't like brilliant or genius, like something was helping and guiding me and kind of like leaving only one path open for that.
And I know, like, I'm not going to, your path better than I know your path, but I think the difference in heart-centered, love-based focus and fear-based control is, like, technically there was another path. Fear would have been
right.
Stop, force your way through, do it the hard way, go against the doctors, go against the grain, push through, bullhead all the way through. Like, to me, that was the quote unquote other choice. Like,
right.
And so, that's where I think, to me, the bravery in you comes in, is like, yeah, you're faced with, if I want what I want, I have to do this hard thing, and it's going to be uncomfortable and it might suck for a minute, but I'm going to give it a try, or bully through or give up. Like, and those aren't choices to you. Like that, the fact that, like that in itself is like just not not on your radar. I think that's why you're in that heart-centered way. To me, that's what I see.
No, I love hearing that, because I do, when I look back on things and people are like, oh, why'd you choose to do that? I'm like, what do you mean it wasn't a choice? Like, I was like, I saw no other way for it. So when I was at L'Oreal, and I was pitching like my dream job to the company. And in retrospect, like it was pretty like daring and bold and kind of risky to do that. And, it took 8 to 12 months to happen, but they ended up like creating a new headcount for me and created this new position, which was kind of unheard of in the company. And the position was considered risky. It was like being an executive, being like a minion to one of the most senior executives. And a lot of people are like, well, she has an assistant. And I was like, no, I'm not her assistant. I'm like her executive aide. I don't know. There was like, we were making it up, literally. everyone I spoke to criticized this idea, right? They were like, it's not a good idea. You're on the fast track at L'Oreal. Like, don't do this thing. It's going to mess up your career. Like, like everyone. And I don't know why, Sky. I just didn't hear their criticism. I was like, no, you're wrong. This is an amazing idea. It's actually going to accelerate my path at L'Oreal. And my dad was the only person who was like, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Everyone else was against it. And then after I was in the job for like a year, people were like, wow, that was brilliant. What made you think of it? And I was like, that's funny that people are saying it was a good idea, But that was something outside of me, It's not like I was,
Right.
For me, there weren't like I could have kept doing what I was doing, but I wasn't happy in that. And it just didn't, I didn't see another option.
That's one of the things I think, obviously we want to be able to see our choices and we want to know. I always joke and say, my obliviousness is my greatest gift and my worst curse. And so I will be halfway through a thing before people are like, oh my gosh, that's the thing you're doing? Like you're creating a new kids tarot deck? What made you even think of that? And I'm like, I don't know, just like,
yeah,
just did it. And so that's where I think that like trusting ourselves and following through, like that gives us that view of saying, this just is the way. Like I'm going to do the work for whatever the way is. And in order for me to put one foot in front of the other to get there. Yeah. And I'm not seeing, I see what I want in the end, but I'm not seeing it as an overwhelm. I'm seeing it as like, here's what it takes.
Yeah. And I feel like also for me, it's, I always weigh like the benefits and the risks sort of. And I'm like, the worst thing that can, what's the worst thing that could happen in this situation? And it's probably not worse than the other thing. You know what I mean? Like for the job at L'Oreal, I was like, they could say no and I'm still doing what I'm doing. Like nothing changes, they just say no. To me, that was kind of like the option. It just wasn't that bad, the risk to it. So why not?
Yeah. I think that's very important. So is there anything else you want people to know about like turning change into growth? What advice you would give them? Anything along those lines?
I think something that it's taken me a long time to learn or to be able to verbalize is the power of our emotions, and how wise our emotions are. And it's something I haven't learned it. I'm still working on it, but I do feel like our bodies and our subconscious mind are so much smarter than our rational mind. And so I'm not great at it, Sky, but I try when I feel something repetitively over and over, I try to I'm very analytical. I'm very front brain. And so I try to think why am I feeling these feelings, especially negative ones? Positive ones, I just ride the happy wave, but negative ones, I'm like, why am I feeling this? And I try to rationalize it. And if I can't rationalize the feeling away, then I keep addressing it because I think it's trying to tell me something. I feel like it's, yeah. And that I like the power of our emotions and our feelings, which for so long have been squished out. And I know we're in an age of acceptance and opening up to it. But it's hard, I think, sometimes to listen to them and feel them. And
it's true. And we can't control our thoughts or our feelings. Like both of them happen. And that's where we go back into the same message is like what we do with them
exactly
is where the power is. And so if we know it's a messenger, instead of using it as a battering ram on ourselves, we go like, oh, what is that? I'm curious. What is it trying to tell me? Where is it indicating? Where do I take this? Where does it belong in the world? And, kind of almost in a way of observing it and what it's trying to bring to us and allowing ourselves to feel it in whatever way, because it's happening, whether we allow ourselves feeling it or whether we observe it or not, it's happening. So, that's where
your body's still keeping score.
Exactly.
Yeah. I'm not good at that, by the way. I want your listeners to know, especially if my sister listens.
I'm not good at that. It took me a long time. We're all humans here.
I'm very good at living in denial. So it's something that I'm working on is to allow myself to feel it. All my therapists, all my coaches, plus my family, they're like, you need to work on feeling the bad stuff. You can't just shove it away.
It's true. We're all human. We've been there. That's one.
Just working on it.
One thing that I love about the podcast, everybody comes on human as they are. So they're extremely relatable. 10 listeners just shook their head with you. So I have 3 questions that I ask every show. And the first one is, what do you think it means to be your soul?
Yeah, I think I don't like the word authentic because it's so overused. But I think kind of, if you can close your eyes and just be quiet with yourself and think about, feel what makes you content and happy and feel good. I think it's that, and creating more of that for yourself, figuring out what gives you that.
That's good. So what's one thing you do no matter what to make sure you get your self-care in?
I know I don't like this question, Sky. I'm really not good. Not good at this. Yep. I was like, well, I make sure I have at least one sip of my coffee in the morning before it gets cold, but that doesn't even happen every morning. No, you know what I do a lot, and like my family will get frustrated with me. I take deep breaths. Like it happens often throughout the day, but I think it's a way for me to like eject a little bit from my brain and calm down. And I do that often, like very often.
I'm a deep breath taker too. So
we can hang out.
I think people sometimes find it intimidating when they ask a question and you're like, okay. And it's like,
yours sounds peaceful. Mine sounds annoyed. People will be like, are you very frustrated? And I'm like, no, I'm just getting some oxygen, Yours is like soothing. I like yours. I need to copy yours.
Oh yeah, just change the tone, then you're good. Like, okay, here we are.
I'm gonna practice it.
Yeah, you got it. You got this. I have faith. So what does feeling centered and balanced look like in your life?
I like this question, first of all. I know we're not supposed to be judging them, but I'm telling you my judgments anyway.
Well, we already established you like to measure things, so you put them in order of how you like them, so it's totally fine.
I love this because in the past I was really like analytical about it and like kind of looking at examples in the world of what a balanced life is supposed to be and reading all those self-help books and stuff, and they had like a formula for it, and I would try to live by that formula and it just wouldn't work for me. I would feel like bored or frustrated or whatever. And I like learned through so many experiences with you, with a good friend who did human design on me and told me I'm a manifesting generator, and I've learned like I do really thrive when I have different things, very different things that I can work on all at the same time. And I like having my hands in a lot of different things. And even though it's busy and chaotic and can feel crazy, I think in my body and my soul, it feels so much better. It's so much more fulfilling and satisfying than trying to simplify my life and only do a few things.
Right.
I end up feeling kind of like caged or frustrated, and my brain almost shuts down. When I've tried to be like one track, it's almost like I can't think as clearly. I don't have as good ideas. I can't feel the progress being made. And something about having lots of things, even though on the outside, I think it looks like chaotic and crazy and like, I'm like, I would be spreading myself too thin, which is what I would have said in the past about it. And that's still maybe true. Who knows? Maybe I'm not doing all things so well, but in my body, in my heart, it feels so much better to have lots of different things.
And it's like metabolism. Like some people have a really high physical metabolism and other people have a really low physical metabolism. And people with high metabolism needs more nutrients, and people with lower metabolism, I'm going to say that 20 times, need less nutrients. And so I think that's part of it is your energy. You have that high energy position and you're moving things through a lot. So you need more nutrients to keep that feeling going.
Interesting.
And create that, around you. So, we are all individuals. No one can look at your life and say your life should be mine or my life should be yours. I think that's part of knowing that you're centered and balanced is right inside of yourself. You are exactly where you're supposed to be. So that formula is not going to work for every single person. Mm-hmm. We all are different. So I think it has to do with that process where, like if you're metabolizing it, if it's moving through your system and it's not creating toxins, then it's just the right amount of nutrients for you.
I love that. I read a book years ago, like probably 15 years ago, Brene Brown, The Soul of
Hmm.
Money.
Oh,
Did you ever
yeah.
read that book?
I didn't read that one, but I love Brene Brown.
Yeah, I don't know how I picked it up. I like felt like I wasn't doing well with my personal finances, and I ended up reading this book, which was like mind blowing on my spiritual level. Nothing, sure it helped with finances, but like on a spiritual level. But she talked about money, and I took it to mean everything in life, and tasks and everything, like a river, and that you don't want to create a dam. You have to let it flow. If you create a dam, that's when bad things can happen. Like, and not to be afraid of it. And literally 15, 20 years ago, I read that book, and I can't get that image of the river out of my mind.
Hmm.
And I think about it with anytime I'm feeling overwhelmed or stressed or like there's too much to do, I go back to the river. I'm like, how can I let this flow? How can I stop being a dam? How can I stop making things build up? What can I do to allow it to flow? And I think that helps with, I like your metabolism metaphor, because that it made me think of the river too, the metabolism metaphor.
And I use the river in the grove, like the metaphor for the, in the grove as well. And that's what happens in our energy field whenever we, create blockages or tighten our energy or create compulsive energy. It has that, dam effect and
Hmm.
blocks things from being able to flow through. So it's very valid.
Yeah, it might have changed my life, that sentence.
Nice.
Hmm. One day I'll meet Brene and I'll tell her the impact she had. I had no idea. I had no idea I was buying a self-help book. I thought it was going to be like a boring finance book.
I didn't even know that one existed. I'm gonna have to look it up. Well, thank you so much for coming on. It was really amazing to get to chat with you, and I appreciate your wisdom being added to the show. Is there anything that you want our listeners to know, like where to find you, anything coming up, anything along those lines? I know you need to talk about the two businesses you work for.
Thank you, Sky. First of all, I love you. Thank you so much for having me. I always, just getting to talk to you is an honor and a pleasure. So thank you for having me. It's an honor to get to spend time with you. Always. I always learn from you. It's the best. And my two businesses. So I'm the vice president of marketing sales at Thompson. And Thompson is a beautiful luxury kitchen and bath products manufacturer. So we make sinks and bathtubs and vanities and range hoods. Everything is handcrafted out of metal. It's mostly made in Mexico, handmade by artisans. They're little works of art.
They
We
are
recently
beautiful.
launched. Oh, thank you. You know what I like about them, Sky, is they're made out of the earth and they're like good for you and healthy. And so, I mean, I like a lot. They look pretty as well, but I just feel like the energy that's in that piece is a good energy to have in your home.
Hmm.
And we just launched a new barware collection. It's a collaboration with a company that I love, another family business called Pappy and Co. And the barware is awesome. So if anyone likes to make mixed drinks, they don't have to be alcoholic. We have all the things you need to make them.
Nice.
And my other company is ESTAS Beauty, and I would love for people to check it out. I started ESTAS Beauty with one of my good friends, Christina. We're bi-coastal, and ESTAS stands for Every Scar Tells a Story. And it is the first and I think only line of luxury scar care. So it's a line of skincare specifically for scars. The mission of Estes is not to erase scars, because everyone in the world has a scar and it's technically impossible to erase them. Even if they're not visible, the skin there is still scarred skin. It still has different needs. It's still biologically different. It's drier, it's tighter. And so our mission is to kind of like liberate women, change the societal stigma against scars, but also, because it's a different type of skin, give that skin what it needs, give it the skincare that it needs. And it's a lofty mission because the societal stigma against scars is still pretty strong.
Yeah.
So it's something it's hard to even get people to admit that they have a scar. Once you get past that hurdle, people love talking about scars, but getting them to admit they have a scar is tough.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. So thank you for bringing it into the world in the way that you did.
I think it was largely due to your help, Sky, because you have helped me like right my brain and my energy so that I can do things.
Oh, that makes my heart warm. Thank you. Thank you. And I'm only the vessel. I just bring forward what you need to hear for yourself.
That's what she says. It's a magical vessel, all right? You're like the genie in the bottle. It's a very magical vessel.
I love you. All right. So thank you so much for being here. We also want to send a burst of gratitude to our listeners. Thank you, dear listener, for taking time to tune in, and be sure to listen through to the next segment for tools and tips on how to do the work.
Production of the Be Your Soul podcast is made possible in part by Little Energies, a children's chakra-aligned oracle deck. Little Energies is made specifically for children to learn and support their own healthy energy system. These 24 chakra-aligned oracle cards focus on energy wellness through mantras, exercises, and envisioning. You can pre-order your deck now by supporting our Kickstarter and receive it in time for holiday gifting. Find more information at tarotbysky.com. Coming up next, Sky shares a process you can use to focus towards progress for your own goals.
In this segment, I offer tools and guidance that I have found helpful in my practice, and maybe you will too. Just a reminder, if you haven't done the exercise from episode 14 on finding your why, you may want to go back and listen to support this exercise. We are going to do this in an energetic way by focusing out into the horizon view of success through creative envisionment. From there, we can then move back into acceptance of our current moment position. We can do this without judgment by recognizing the distance between where we are in this moment and what we are trying to manifest in our world. That is the map that will get us there. It takes a level of truly seeing where you are and taking an inventory of what you have in this moment compared to what you need in order to achieve your goal. I liken this to baking a cake. We are creating our recipe, finding out the ingredients that are needed, and identifying what putting together those ingredients might look like. Then it's time to go to the cupboard and see what ingredients we have versus what ingredients we need to go get. This is how the map will be built. It is important to remember that we're not rushing out on a spree to obtain every ingredient that is missing immediately. This will likely be a treasure map that you take step by step, acquiring each ingredient that is missing until you come to your end goal, manifestation. So it's time to get out our journals and focus towards progress that you're trying to make. On a blank page, write your goal or what you're trying to manifest at the top in big letters and maybe even underline it. If you've established your why, then write a nice, juicy sentence underneath your goal about why obtaining it is important in your life. Remember, knowing your why keeps you motivated, so skipping this step may make things harder in the long run. Then look out into what accomplishing the goal is like in your future life to identify what ingredients are present that makes up that success. There's your ingredients list. Write those ingredients under your why. Be sure it is a full and whole list. If you've ever left out the baking soda in a cake, you know how important the small, seemingly invisible steps might be. Once you've determined the goal, your why, and the ingredients that make up the goal, you can now move on to the following questions. What ingredients do I have right now? What ingredients do I need to obtain? Do I have more ingredients or need more ingredients? If I need more ingredients, I may need to go back and evaluate the original goal to be sure that I'm on the right track. Do I feel called to start over to something new, or fix this existing goal, or create a whole new thing in my world based on it? Knowing this helps us be sure we're prepared for the distance on the road ahead. A goal that needs more ingredients will be a harder mountain to climb. Once you've made this determination, you can move on to the next step. If I have more ingredients or I refine the above, then it's time to prioritize them. Separate the list into what you currently have and what you currently need to obtain. Then number these ingredients according to the following. In the have list, number the ingredients according to your comfort and expertise level. Number 1 being the thing you are most confident in. That way, you can come back to this list to your strengths if you start feeling off course. When addressing the need column, you will want 3 different color pens. So there will be 3 numbers next to each ingredient. Number the ingredients individually, making number 1 the highest and moving upwards in numbering in these 3 areas. The first area. What is most important to obtain in order to be successful? Go ahead and number 1 and up. Using the next color pen, what might be the easiest or fastest thing to obtain? Starting 1 and up. Using the third pen, number the most logical order in obtaining these ingredients. Just a quick note, these numbers may not necessarily match up. Once you have each one of these ingredients numbered according to each one of the questions, you will have a better idea of how to map your path. For example, let's say the ingredient might be obtaining a business plan, and that logged a number 1 for the first question, a number 3 for the second question, and a number 1 for the third question. That would mean that obtaining a business plan should be high priority in the first ingredients that you're trying to acquire. Using this method, rewrite the ingredients list according to the newly defined order. Then ask yourself, what are 3 actions on my part that I can do right now to focus me towards obtaining the first ingredient on the list? As you accomplish the 3 actions, you will again identify 3 new actions until you've moved forward, finding yourself with all the ingredients and at your goal. At first, it may feel like you are moving towards actions that don't immediately create ingredients, and that's okay. Mapping your way from where you are may take a few steps before you get to the main spaces of acquiring ingredients. It also may mean that the ingredients come one at a time over time. Try to remember, as you're making these actions, the universe is opening the proper doors for you to go through to acquire exactly what you need for your highest and best good. Doing this at a step-by-step process allows for the universe to flow through your actions and guide you. If all this sounds too complex, then I've made a YouTube video that will go through this piece by piece. That is our gift to you.
This is one exercise in Sky's 7 Steps to Manifest course, a mini course designed to help you get into the energy and mindset of manifesting your destiny. You can find it and many other courses on our website, beyoursoul.org. There you can sign up for our newsletter, listen to previously released episodes, and find free bonus content. And you can always subscribe to our Patreon for as little as $5 a month for early access listening and PDF files of these helpful exercises and more. Patreon allows the great work Sky is presenting to the universe to be supported by the collective. Find us at patreon.com/BeYourSoulSky. And as always, links are on our website. This podcast is produced at Muddy Creek Studios.